William Shinkman is quickly becoming my favorite chess composer. He has some absolutely incredible positions like this one right here, which is actually a black, it's white to play, but then black has to figure out how to get a draw, and then white has to figure out how to get a draw, and then later black has to figure out how to win, and it's just back and forth, just craziness. Well, there's this clump of pieces that basically just sit here and can't really move. It's fascinating. So let me just set the scene here. These pawns are going forward in this direction. We're looking at it from black's perspective. These pawns are going this way, which means none of these pieces can move. They're all stuck, right? The rooks are trapped inside the pawns and the bishop here. The pawns can't move because everything's blockaded. The king can't move because it's trapped by the pawns. And the bishop, technically the bishop could move, but you don't want to move the bishop because then you allow the queen. And even if you take it, you've unleashed the rook and the bishop and the other rook and the pawn. Everything just comes into the game. It's not what you want. So that's interesting. And then we have the three pawns against the king and the pawn over here. And you're going to see the fireworks that happen with that in just a moment. So before I say too much, the starting move of this puzzle is actually a4 by white. And then black needs to figure out how to draw the game. So if you would like to pause and try to think about that. And real quick announcement, I just played a racquetball for the first time in several months. I am super grateful to be able to do that. And I posted the video of me playing racquetball over on the other channel. So if you want to see me playing racquetball, I'll put a link. You can check that out. All right, go ahead and pause and try to find the move here for black to draw the game. All right, well, if you had a chance to look at that, the only move here is the move b6. A b6. And what you are trying to avoid is Zugzwang, where you're stuck in a bad spot. Okay, so as a reminder, Zugzwang is where your position is good, but as soon as you make a move, it becomes bad and losing, but you have to move something because you can't pass in chess, right? That's not an option. You have to make a move every single time it's your turn if you can. So for example, if we play the move, let's just say a5 here, white's going to simply come over here, grab our pawn, and we end up in this situation where we don't really want to move this, but we have to. Or we move the bishop. We don't want to move that either, but we have to move something. And as soon as we move it, white's going to capture, push here and get a queen before we do, and that's it. We're in trouble. Okay, as an example, boom, boom, we can push ours, but they're going to get the queen first. Yes, we do get the queen, but this is a win for white. It's a little tricky because you have to avoid the perpetual checks, but you can bring the queen back. And I don't want to get bogged down in it, but eventually this is going to be a win for white. Although I could probably talk about that for another 5 minutes as well. The point is, this is what we were trying to avoid, right? This Zugzwang situation, okay? So a5 doesn't work. a6 doesn't work because then white would go here and it's the same thing where we're just stuck and we have to make a bad move. b6 prevents that because now if this pawn ever tries to push, we're just going to take it and push this guy all the way, right? And so the only thing for white to do is to come over here and grab our pawn. Okay, great. So what do we do now? If you had a chance to look at that, it's a6. And notice how we were careful to not play a5 to where we've put ourselves in that same situation. We play a6 to guarantee that we're going to be able to force a passed pawn here while the white king is off on the other side of the board. That's crucial, okay? So white captures, we play b5, and we get a trade. Great. We've accomplished what we wanted to accomplish. We're ready to go with our pawn. And now is where the puzzle kind of switches. So we were trying to hold on, not lose, get the draw as black. And now the ball is in white's court of, okay, white, how do you not lose the game? Because if you guys remember the trick that I showed you, when you're trying to calculate if a pawn can be stopped by a king or not, you just make a triangle like this, and you ask yourself, okay, can the king step into the triangle? The answer is no. The white king is one square too short, which means what? We can't stop the pawn. So, before I say anything else, what's the move here for white to draw the game? If you had a chance to look at that, the only move here for white is the incredible move, king to h5. Which, right now, probably thinks, you might be thinking like, wait a second, Nelson, that doesn't make any sense. The pawn's going this way. Why in the world would we run our king here? We can't even do anything. What's happening, right? So let's actually go ahead and see what happens if you try to catch the pawn. We already talked about you're not going to be able to catch it, but let's just see what happens, right? One move too short. Black gets the queen. Okay. And now this is a losing position for white. So that is why you don't do that. We'll come back to king h5 in just a minute. But first we need to answer the question, okay, it's supposed to be a win for black, but how exactly does black win? Because wait a second, Nelson, the king is stuck. Can you actually checkmate white's king when your king is stuck over here? The answer is yes. And if you would like to pause, how do you think that might happen? You got a chance to look at that. The secret lies in this bishop right here. Essentially, what you have to do is force the king into just the right spot, and then at just the right time, you bring the bishop into the game to deliver the checkmate before white pushes the pawn and checkmates you. Okay, so it has to be done just the right way. Let me show you an example of what this might look like. King moves somewhere, we go check, and depending on where the king goes, you cut it off along the edge of the board. So if you're trying to checkmate with like a king and a queen, this would be maybe how you would normally do it. You cut off the king, and you bring your king up to help deliver the checkmate. In our case, we can't use the king, but what we can do is use the bishop. So we could deliver the check. Of course, the king doesn't want to go here. It's checkmate right away. So the king tries to run, but we simply go queen to f2, and next move is checkmate. Yes, white does get a queen, but it doesn't matter. Now, you also might be wondering what happens back here if the king, instead of running this way, decides to run this way, right? Because they could do that as well. Well, it's the same kind of idea. We're going to go here, we're going to go here, and now black to play and win. What's the winning move? Get a chance to look at that. It's bishop to a5. And basically, you're just coming in this way to deliver the checkmate. There's nothing that white can do to stop you. Yes, they get the queen, but after check, we have checkmate, and it doesn't really matter. So just in the nick of time, okay? So that is why this actually is a win for black, because this bishop, even though you didn't really want to move it earlier in the puzzle, you can move it just at the very end to deliver the checkmate. Cool. So now that we understand that, let's go all the way back here to where I said the only move for white was king to h5. Actually, that's not true. King h5 or king g5, both of these moves will draw the game. But why? Well, let's take a look. b4, white to play and draw. That's right, king to h6. b3, white to play and draw. King to h7. b2, white to play and draw. Wait for it. King to h8. I put the double exclamation mark there because what we're doing is when black gets the queen, we have stalemated ourselves here now. Remember, none of these pieces can move. This is a stalemate. This is actually a stalemate. So black is obligated then to get a rook, but now you can't checkmate the king. The king's just going to run away, and we basically just get this check forever. Remember, earlier you had to use the queen and then abandon this with the bishop. Bishop and a rook, not going to be enough to checkmate the king, right? And so it's just going to be a draw, 50-move rule draw or something like that. Wow. I don't know about you guys, but that was incredible. I hope you can appreciate that and enjoy that as much as I did. I'll see you guys next time. Thanks for watching. Stay sharp, play smart, and take care.